Our newest office, 9th city, in our 20th year, obviously brings in a lot more excitement. Sari team को excitement है, मेरे को भी बहुत है, and very proud of it. Before I take you through कि हम चंडीगढ़ में what are our plans are, क्यों हैं, किस लिए हैं, I want to first start with what is Fateh. You know, because as I said, we're new over here. A lot of other cities knows us. Fateh is more than just an organization. To me, it is, you know, as I said, for anybody, their own company हमेशा ज़्यादा special होती है, ज़्यादा प्यारी होती है. But for me, it is more than that because I don't look at it as just as a business. I see it as a movement. I see it as a social responsibility as well. Yes, we are for profit, पैसा बनाना है, कौन नहीं बनाना चाहता, but it has not always been driven by money. It has always been driven with a motive, a mission. And that mission, as we complete 20 years today, 20 years later this year, I want to take you क्या start हुआ. Some ways I want to start with my own education a bit. I have done my graduation from SRCC, probably from the finest colleges in India, commerce colleges in India. Then I went to do IIM Calcutta. Again, one of the better ones over here. The reason I'm trying to tell you is because having been through the best education system, मेरे को समझ है कि उसका बेनिफिट क्या है, क्या वैल्यूज आती हैं, क्या उसका लाइफ में आता है. इट इज नॉट जस्ट जो पढ़ाई होती है, इट इज ऑल्सो अबाउट हाउ यू इंटरेक्ट विद पीपल, क्या आपका माइंड डेवलप होता है, कैसे आप पर्सपेक्टिव दुनिया के लिए चेंज होता है. एंड स्पेसिफिकली एट IIM बिकॉज वी हैड पीपल फ्रॉम ऑल ओवर द कंट्री, कोई चेन्नई से है, कोई केरला से था. सो यू नो यू स्टार्ट अंडरस्टैंडिंग डिफरेंट वेज ऑफ लुकिंग एट थिंग्स. एक वही पर्सपेक्टिव आपका पहले होता है, थोड़ा मायोपिक होता है, वो थोड़ा खुल जाता है. You know, so and that's where I've seen always use education as a way to widen your horizons, widen your perspective. But before even, you know, I did go to IIM Calcutta, but it's the fact is, मेरा खुद का interest था बाहर जाने का. I'm talking about 2000. I'm talking about 98. You know, so 98 final year of my college. Somewhere in December, November की बात है. November December, मेरा friend who was in St. Stephen's College, उसने आके बोला मेरा admission हो गया. मैंने कहा एडमिशन हो गया मींस अभी कॉलेज खत्म होने के बाद अप्लाई नहीं करते. ही सेड नहीं हो गया, एडमिशंस क्लोज हो गई वहां पे. एंड आई वाज लाइक कब अप्लाई किया? ही सेज दिस इज हाउ इट हैपेंड. मैंने कहा किसने बताया? ही सेज माय फ्रेंड माय प्रोफेसर टोल्ड मी एंड दे सेड दे गाइडेड अस एंड आई रियलाइज देयर वाज अ गैप. आई वांटेड टू गो बट आई वाजंट. तो नेक्स्ट ईयर कहा चलो एक बार ट्राई करेंगे, लेट्स ट्राई दैट. बट यू नो दैट वाज द टाइम, 98 वाज द टाइम जहां इंटरनेट हैड जस्ट स्टार्टेड टू टेक शेप. ईमेल वाज स्टिल समथिंग न्यू. वी डिड नॉट गेट टू मच कॉरेस्पॉन्डेंस ओवर देयर. उस टाइम क्या था, चिट्ठी लिखनी पड़ती थी, सेंड आउट अ लेटर, कितने हफ्तों बाद रिप्लाई आएगा. सो द होल थिंग इज आई स्टार्टेड द प्रोसेस राइटिंग टू इंस्टीट्यूशंस इन डिफरेंट पार्ट्स इन UK, इन US. बाय द टाइम आई गॉट रिस्पॉन्सेज एंड फिगर्ड आउट क्या करना है, वो अगला साल भी निकल गया था. अगला साल नहीं, मिडल ऑफ द ईयर चला गया. दैट इज वेयर आई डिसाइडेड कि ये बहुत मुश्किल है. सो आई दैट्स वेयर आई लुक्ड एट इंडिया एज वेल. ऑब्वियसली डिड वेल, बट वेयर आई एम कमिंग फ्रॉम इज that is also a point which kept left a mark in me कि ये information symmetry है, जो अगर मेरे को issue है तो बाकियों को भी issue आएगा. So this was the back of the mind when we were setting up Fateh, me and my wife, who's my co-founder. She has an equally fascinating story. I won't steal her thunder by talking about her. Maybe another day she'll talk about her side of this story as well. But for me, this when we were setting it up कि कुछ करना है. So it was not just about trying to build something about just money. The idea was how can we make a difference? And that is where that Fateh wala part came in, is that let's look at study abroad. And from day one, we've been very clear, we will not chase profits. Let profit be, let it come, but we will chase how much social impact we can create. It took us 7 years to break even, 10 years to be cash flow positive. Why am I telling you this is only to explain where we are coming from and why what we bring on the table. In a sector like this, जहाँ पे profitability achieve करना पहले महीने में बन जाती है, हमें 7 साल लगे cash flow profitable होने and 10 साल cash flow positive होने में. Again, the logic of that was very simple कि हम impact कैसे create करेंगे. Impact मैं आपको बताता हूँ कैसे impact का है. हमने जब start किया counseling side पे, UK side का, Ireland side का, हमने पहले साल बहुत दबा के काउंसलिंग किया, बहुत जगह कॉलेजेस गए, फेयर्स की, इवेंट्स किए, क्या क्या नहीं किया. वी स्पोक टू हंड्रेड्स ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स एट द एंड ऑफ फर्स्ट ईयर. ठीक है, बिकॉज वी आर वेरी स्ट्रेट एंड ऑनेस्ट कि क्या चीज है क्या नहीं है. एट द एंड ऑफ फर्स्ट ईयर, जहां इतनी मेहनत करने के बाद, इतनी जगह जाने के बाद, बिकॉज वी वर स्ट्रेट, वी एंडेड अप डूइंग ओनली वन स्टूडेंट, सिर्फ एक. बट it is not this, that is not the end of the story. The interesting part is that one student was the real brother of my counselor. Okay, शायद उसका brother ना होता तो मेरा zero था. But I'll tell you why that one student made a difference. Because वो जो थी, वो रोज हमसे सुनती थी, देखती थी. She realized how truthful and honest we were, and she went back to her brother to say, look, ये चीजें मेरे को समझ आई हैं, and I think you need to talk to it. And that gave me and gave my wife a lot of confidence to say कि ठीक है, we are on the right track. जिसने हमें बहुत क्लोज से देखा, क्लोज से समझा, अगर उसने ट्रस्ट किया, then I think it's a matter of time जो दुनिया भी ट्रस्ट करेगी. And that is exactly what has started to happen. We have achieved market leadership status in most places we have gone to. In most cities we are there. Ireland, we built the market. UK, we are among top 2, top 3 players in the market when it comes to study abroad. Ireland is again a very interesting story. Again, when we look at how can we make a difference to the world, right? How do we make a difference to our students? So if I go back to 2010, Ireland में इंडिया से कोई नहीं जाता था. Total student visas जो उस टाइम इशू हुए थे 2010 में सिर्फ 200 इशू हुए थे. Okay, and I'm talking about all of South Asia, because Indian embassy, the embassy in India issues for all of South Asia. So they said हमारे 200 visa है. But we found something very interesting. Ireland was at that stage, जितना भी वो उस टाइम में 2008 के क्राइसिस के बाद they were going through a difficult phase, pigs economy, Portugal, Ireland, Greece, Spain. But we found there was something very special about it. It was the Silicon Valley of Europe. All the major IT companies were European headquartered there. We realized they were also the market leaders in pharmaceuticals. We realized they are in the cutting edge of biomedical devices. They are ahead in accounting. That is where we worked with Enterprise Ireland to say कि इसको हम Indian students को promote करना चाहिए, because I think there's a value which is being added. Okay. Obviously, we build the market, we control the market. 1 in every 3 students who go to Ireland goes to us. But it is the success for us is not कि 1 in 3 जाता है. The success for us is almost every single Indian student who goes there ends up finding a job, and not any job, a skilled job. Go back, look it up on Google, you will realize that what I'm trying to say. Our cases, the students we have dealt with, we've ensured they just don't find a job, they just want a skilled job, they're working in the world leading companies. IT mein hai, to obviously Google, Facebook, all of those companies are there. If they're in audit, Deloitte is one of the biggest recruiters of one of our students. You look at it, Big Four, all of them, Ernst & Young, all of them are doing really well. Biomedical devices, name it. Our students are finding job. Peak COVID, when the West was laying off people, हमारे स्टूडेंट को उस साल भी जॉब मिली और आराम से जॉब मिली. Okay, the reason is because we send them prepared. We were trying to explain this. We are not trying to fit, कि कहीं भी किसी को भी डाल दो. The idea is कि वहां जाके succeed कैसे होगा, success कैसे होगा. We worked with the Enterprise Ireland, we worked with the universities, we ensured a pathway was created. चाहे वो स्टूडेंट हमारे से आए या किसी और से जाए, वो जो pathway हमने create किया, जो impact हमने create किया, the benefit is across a lot of students, not just ours. So that is what I'm trying to say is when we talk about Fateh. So yeah, just, and as we go along, over the last 20 years, we have established ourselves not just a preferred consultant for students, but we are also the preferred direct partner for 120 plus universities. Okay, practically all universities in UK and every single institution in Ireland. When I say institutions, I'm not talking about small colleges. I'm talking about reputed ones. I'm talking about Manchester. I'm talking about King's College. I'm talking about universities whose name resonate. And we are not just their partner, we are their preferred partner. अब वो direct होने का बहुत benefit मिलता है because you're ensuring you're able to take the student voice to this university, not just bring the university knowledge to the student, because वो तो आ जाता है. Student voice to the university जाना बहुत ज़रूरी होता है. And that is what we also attempt to do. We've always looked ourselves as an intermediary. The information flow has to go both ways, not just one way. It is not just about कि हाँ recruitment कैसे maximize किया. It is about how do you optimize it. Sometimes the best path is not the shortest path. Generally, we are attuned to the idea that we will pick the shortest path. But most times, shortest path is not the most optimum. We always have to look at finding the optimum path around it. Even if it means लंबा रास्ता लेना पड़े, but that's fine. Because again, मेरा एक बहुत famous, not something which I talk a lot to my team and lot to a student is, जब हम अपने career को देखते हैं ना, the big mistake we do is we look at हम कहाँ पे start हो रहे हैं. We look at अगर curve है, वो हमारा intercept कहाँ है, कहाँ पे शुरू हो रहे हैं. What we miss out is what is the slope we are building. The slope is always more important than the intercept. Yet we always focus on the intercept rather than the slope. And that is again something we talk to us about as counselors too. That's what we tell our counselors, talk to students about. कि try and build a long-term vision. 40-45 years का working life ahead है. उसको 2 साल के vision से क्यों देखते हो? अपने 40 years को maximize करो ना. 5 साल क्यों maximize करते हो? Sometimes is it a slower path, maybe a better path, and that's what we want to achieve. Again, when we say we take our responsibility seriously, we don't just put anybody in front of our students. We go through an intensive training process. We have our own in-house team. But we also have built in what we call a knowledge center. I think we're the only ones in the entire country जिनका अपना knowledge center. What do I mean by knowledge center? हमारा knowledge center, it's a team of 20 people who are all the time researching कि इस stage पे students के लिए कौन से courses better हैं. उस courses को हम कैसे improve कर सकते हैं student के counseling जाने के लिए, How do we take that to our counselors first? How do we retrain them or train them for that matter? We also look at how can we understand के student requirements क्या हैं. So that is what we try and build with the knowledge center. And I think we are the only ones which actually have that. That for us has helped us create an impact. As I said, we have become market leaders not because we aimed at being market leaders. It is aspirational and we would want to be, but it happened because we focused on student outcomes rather than pure numbers. Numbers is important for us, but it was also the focus around student outcomes. इसी चीज पे taking that into thing when we coming to Chandigarh, and we're very, very excited to come to Chandigarh because I think it's a beautiful market. Okay, high quality students, high aspirations. A lot of the students. When I say post 92, in my this thing is if I look at India, I look at pre 92, which is pre-liberalization and post-liberalization. So the students, जिनके parents who came into working life post 92, their kids are now going into education. Their aspirations have changed from what it was 10 years ago, or it was 15 years ago, because they've seen a different India from what they grew up and started to work in. And that aspirations is changing from what it was 10-15 years ago. Usko hum dekhte hue, this is what we're bringing to Chandigarh, is how do we maximize those aspirations? It's a beautiful market, very close to my heart, close to Delhi, close to my roots in many ways. And how do we look at it is that चाहे आज हम launch आज कर रहे हैं, we've been in it for 2 months now. We recruited a team 2 months ago. For 2 months, we've been training them. They've gone through not just a regular training, they've gone through tests, they've gone through quizzes, they've gone through mock counselings. You name it, we've done it. And only जब हमें लगा कि वो अब clear हो गया है, उस stage पे पहुंच गए, this is where we have said, okay, let's go out and start talking to students. But our training is not done yet. In a sense, we will continue to do a regular intensive training, because with every day, what we learn from our student is market जो समझ आएगा, goes back to the knowledge center, they work out इसको हम और कैसे better कर सकते हैं, they go back, retrain these people on it. And we in due course, over the next few months, our intention is हमने team को UK Island भेजना है. This is what we do in all over the country. हमारी team को जरूरी है what they're selling, what they're suggesting to students, what they're advising students. उसको समझना depth में तभी समझ सकते हो जब आप खुद देख के आते हो. Again, probably another only company जहाँ पे counseling team almost 50 to 60% has always traveled abroad. हमारा target होता है इसको 75 to 80 तक कैसे लेके जाए. Obviously 100 इसलिए नहीं होता because obviously new people joining in every time, new this thing, because of which we are maintaining about 60% plus. And that for us is very powerful because वहाँ जाके जो सीखने को मिलता है वो हमारे बुक्स पे उस पे आराम से नहीं होता. क्यों होता है? जब वहाँ जाते हैं हम बहुत एक्टिविटीज उनको बोलते हैं करने को. पहले जाके बोलते जाओ इंडियन वेजिटेरियन खाना बना के आओ, फिर बनाओ. वहाँ पे यूनिवर्सिटीज को इन्वाइट करना. अब क्यों बनाने के लिए? बिकॉज वहाँ पे चीज है, मसाले मिलेंगे नहीं मिलेंगे, स्टूडेंट पूछता है, आपको कैसे आंसर कर सकते हो? जब बनाओगे ना अपने आप समझ आ जाएगा. वेजिटेरियन खाना मिलेगा नहीं मिलेगा, बनाओगे अपने आप समझ आ जाएगा. Then you're in a better position to tell the students exactly how you buy, how expensive is it, and is it difficult to make one, right? एक बोलना चीज है, बिना जाए बोलना एक अलग चीज है, एक जाके खुद एक्सपीरियंस करना अलग चीज है. इट इज अबाउट ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड कि ट्रैवल कितना इजी है, कितना डिफिकल्ट है. जैसे अंडरग्रेड स्टूडेंट है, हम बहुत स्टूडेंट को रिकमेंड करते हैं कि अगर अंडरग्रेड स्टूडेंट जा रहे हो, पिक अ सिटी विच इज क्लोज टू द मेजर एयरपोर्ट, क्लोज टू अ मेजर इंटरनेशनल एयरपोर्ट. एंड वी सॉ दैट इम्पैक्ट जब इन कोविड स्ट्रक 2020 में सडनली एयरपोर्ट द बॉर्डर सडनली शट. And we realized most of our students made it back without having to wait because the undergrad students were close to airports, they could easily access it and go. Postgrad students are still more mature, थोड़ा सा easy होता है, वो थोड़ा आगे भी जाते हैं. Undergrad के लिए हम बहुत clear होते हैं कि कहाँ जा रहे हो. And that is where we said this is the things we want to bring to Chandigarh is कि this perspective कैसे select करना है. Obviously हम देखते हैं रैंकिंग, देखते हैं रैंकिंग इज ग्रेट वे टू लुक एट इट, ओके, बट रैंकिंग, ओनली यूजिंग रैंकिंग इज नॉट द ग्रेटेस्ट थिंग. क्यों ग्रेटेस्ट नहीं है? हमने सिलेक्ट किया वो 15th रैंक थी, वो 20th थी, 15th चले थे, 20th से ऊपर है, नॉट लाइजिंग के अगले साल रैंकिंग फिर चेंज होंगी, वो 20 वाली 12 चली जाएगी, 15 वाली 20 चले जाएगी, जो जिस रीजन से सिलेक्ट किया तो चला गया. So again, how do you tackle with this? How do you look at, how do you make sense of this data with the rankings change every year? You know, then we start bringing in what are the other aspects of it. Like simple cheese, again I said, when we said हमारे training में क्यों जरूरी है, it is important to understand the essence of a city, because हर city सबके लिए नहीं होती, because people underestimate कि city कितना important होता है जहाँ जा रहे हैं, because that makes or breaks you, because ultimately foreign education is not just about what you study, it's about the perspective you build, as I started with. Perspective comes in is what are you doing outside the class as well, outside outside university as well. So again, हर city का अपना character होता है. There are cities which you could do a lot when you're into sports. There are cities where you might want to do a lot with music or art or theatre. Again, these are things we tell people to explore because that builds you. अब स्पोर्ट्स में किसी को बहुत इंटरेस्ट है, हम कहते हैं जैसे लवरो है, आपको यूनिवर्सिटी है, टॉप यूनिवर्सिटी है, उसके साथ और भी अच्छी होंगी, बट लवरो का जो स्पोर्ट्स इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है इज अमेजिंग. मतलब इंडियन टीम क्रिकेट टीम वहां जाती है, वहां का उनका इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर यूज करती है. You know, so you can imagine the kind of infrastructure you get over there for that student who are interested in sports. So quality education तो दो जगह पे मिल गया, but अगर student के interest side है, can we maximize the sports infrastructure for him or her? And that's what we try and do over here as well. So in Chandigarh, our target, our objective is again to achieve market leadership. Market leadership for us is important because we feel we can change the narrative of this market as well, in terms of when we start talking about it and we talk about narrative, how to make social impact on it, how do we create bigger impact on people. As a market leader, we are in a better position to do it. So yes, we are aspiring for market leadership, but we are not aspiring for market leadership in a day or two. We are looking at it from a longer term perspective, and we are aiming to achieve it through the impact we create on our students. When I talk about impact, and I'll tell you, I have to tell you this story. This is something which has moved me quite a few times actually. I talk about this a lot. So we had this student who went in about one of our earlier student 2008-9 में गया था. Now obviously or much older, married, has a child. The first child, her daughter, he named it after a counselor because he feels that is the kind of impact we created on his life. If that doesn't inspire us, nothing can, and that's something which keeps us going. कि अपनी daughter को, what was, he could have named her anything, obviously. He still went back and named her after the counselor because he felt she made a difference in his life. And we have many such stories around it. You look at it, I remember having, traveling, I was in Dubai in a hotel and suddenly I have this gentleman come in and introduce himself. He says, you don't recognize me? I said, no, I don't. And he said, no, I'm so-and-so. And you sent me in 2009 into this college over there, and I'm doing so well. I'm now the general manager of this brilliantly good 5-star hotel, without naming the name of the hotel. And I was like, wow. And I did remember him then, because I remember when he came in, he had shifted from different things. His parents, when he came in, were unsure where to send him. And we spent months trying to understand with him what would he fit into and where would he go. जब वो चीज आज उसके बाद हमने जो Bangalore, Chennai, we're in Pune, Ahmedabad, Mumbai in the west, and we're in Kolkata in the east.
So you were dealing with Ireland and UK?
हाँ जी, अभी we're dealing only in UK and Ireland.
Based on the order presenting what, so the other fronts are open for the Indian students as well. We've been seeing a lot of reels around social media. Is it true like Finland and other European countries, Croatia, Lithuania is open for Indian students now?
See, obviously Indian students are being sought after by a lot of countries. But for me to be able to make a comment on these countries is difficult because that's not the countries we deal with. Because our focus at the moment as expertise is limited towards UK and Ireland. And I can tell you about those two countries more than this thing.
Ireland is not much sought after right now also. Just 2 players are there in Chandigarh itself, which you would consider yourself as a good player of Ireland. And certainly there's one more, Mr. Kapoor, who do you think was a major one to recruit for?
Absolutely. I'm sure there are a lot of people who do Ireland. Again, I said, because we build the market, we understand Ireland much better. Our team has been there frequently. And even today, I said, 1 in 3 students who go to Ireland हमारे through जाते हैं pan India. अगर वहाँ पे 6,000 students जा रहे हैं, 2,000 हमारे through जाता है. ठीक है. Again, with that, it's not just about those are student. If I look at where they're going, अगर हम top universities का count करते हैं, Trinity College, UCD, तो हमारा वहाँ पे 1 in 3 से वो हम almost 50% पे चले जाते हैं, because our focus is try and see how can we maximize the student impact, as we said, the student outcomes. So Island, I do think it's a destination which is underexplored by the Chandigarh audience, and that's a destination we want to talk about in Chandigarh a lot. Because specifically जहाँ पे courses हमें दिखता है, accounting है, हमें मालूम है, there are almost, you name it, and all the top employers are over there, and students find very easily they find jobs over there. Computer science तो है ही, again, with Chandigarh being an IT hub in some ways, we see value over here as well. Pharmaceutical again, so we feel it's an underexplored market for us Chandigarh people, and we feel students who look at it tomorrow will gain a lot.
And in London, do you have other cities other than London, like in UK probably? So Scarborough, Relay, just like that.
नहीं, UK में हम across UK deal करते हैं. All 4 parts of UK. When we say all 4, we're talking about North Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and England. And we see a lot of value not just in London but outside London as well. In fact, हर student के लिए अलग city होती है, as we talked about. But London is not for everybody. Okay, London. And that is where, again, one of the things we feel makes a difference, because a lot of people come and सोचते हैं कि हाँ London जाना है, because एक excitement of city, one of the greatest cities of the world. Obviously, we've all heard the quote which says, when you're tired of London, you're tired of life. Okay, great. But as a student, is that the city you want to be in? Because London is also a massive city. It is not for everybody. It is something where you need to build a bond के कि जहाँ पे है कि, because it's a busy city. बड़ी जितनी बड़ी city होती है उतनी busy city होती है. जितनी busy city होती है उतना लोगों के पास कम time होता है. तो हर स्टूडेंट के लिए वो नहीं होता, बिकॉज आपको जहां जहां जाना है आपको अपना एक सपोर्ट सिस्टम बिल्ड करते चले जाना है. इंडियन स्टूडेंट्स कैन बी बोथ एक्सट्रोवर्ट्स एंड इंट्रोवर्ट्स. An extrovert student will do very well over there. But let's say somebody who's introvert, a London might be very depressing for him, because being able to build that support system everywhere can be harder. When I go to let's say a medium-sized city, where I go to a campus university, जहाँ पे मेरे को रोज लोगों से जबरदस्ती मिलना ही पड़ रहा है, invariably मेरा अपना perspective change होता है. I get involved, I understand more things. So that is where I said we don't just deal with London, we deal with all universities and all cities in UK. हाँ जी.
Most of the Indian students, when they go abroad, especially in the Western countries, one problem they face besides the food is racialism. Australia, which we have problem आई थी, और Canada, अपना England, which we के हैगी है. And how do you resolve these issues?
Okay. See, very interesting, and I wouldn't deny the fact that there is, pockets of racism which happen everywhere, anywhere in the world. Okay, but the fact also is, UK as a country is definitely becoming a lot more multicultural. It is very multicultural. There is a lot more acceptance of international students which has started to come in over the last, not just now, in the last 10 to 15 years ago. So I'm not saying कि बिल्कुल नहीं मिलेगा वहाँ पे. Largely हमें students से नहीं मिलता. Maybe when we started out 20 years ago, we were hearing a lot more students tell us. But if I look at the last 2-3 साल में, we're realizing that has actually dropped a lot. And same thing I want to talk about Ireland as well, क्योंकि आपने ये पूछा UK and Ireland दोनों में है. And this is a story I always tell people. My first visit to Ireland, 2006-7 की बात है. That was when London में underground bombings हुआ था, some of you might remember. उसके हफ्ते बाद था. So I was a little scared, because at that time, with a turban on my head, I was a little worried about that, because stage पे होता था. So जब मैं डबलिन में वहाँ पे था, I was walking down the street. I was suddenly approached from behind. किसी ने एकदम रोका. First reaction was डर, because that's what you will kind of feel to it. When you turn around, the person introduced himself and says, "Are you from India?" I said, "Yes." "Are you from Punjab?" I said, "Not Punjab, but yeah, I can understand. I'm a Punjabi." And कहते, "You're Sikh?" I said, "Yes." "How do you know?" He said, "I was in Amritsar last year, and it is a beautiful city." And he was trying to tell me, and he said, "Have you been to the Gurdwara?" I said, "No, I don't even know there's a Gurdwara nearby." That person walked me to the Gurdwara, and that kind of, that changed the way I looked at people over there, because I had gone with the idea कि हाँ मेरे को negative experience मिलेगा. And since then I now go with the idea कि generally positive experience मिलेगा. एक आध बार कभी negative हो, look at the positives and ignore the negative, as long as the positives outshine your negatives. So that's what I tell our students as well. When students ask us, I said, I cannot promise you will never face any incident. Okay, but we say on an average, you will see more positive incidents. Let the positive incidents influence your life and ignore these negative ones.
And Dublin is the least activistic city actually.
It is actually very least racist. It's very nice. It's very friendly. In fact, one of the reasons why our students love it is because क्योंकि वहाँ पे जल्दी settle जल्दी हो जाते हैं. You know, they don't face that kind of issues over there.
एक और है, Chandigarh has I think one of the highest concentration of students. You have a university here.
हाँ.
You have a medical college here. You have the postgraduate here. Almost every